Tonight, she would become Luna. The entire pack watched, unaware of the fate awaiting her.
Finally, our destiny begins.
I reject you!
Humiliation burned through her chest. She had trained her whole life for this moment, and he denied her.
If he won't see me, the moon goddess will. Rise, my chosen, your destiny is far greater than one alpha. Power older than the pack surged through her. She was no longer just Luna. She was a queen. And when she returned, the alpha would kneel before her throne. A power older than the pack surged through her.
I rejected the Queen of Wolves?
Now, tell me again why you thought I was unworthy.
Please tell us where you are watching from. Kindly subscribe if you have not, drop a like, comment and share to others. Thank you. Now let the story begins. Chapter 1, Coronation begins. The moon rose slowly above the forest, vast and silver, flooding the clearing with a cold, sacred light. But beneath that beautiful glow, something was already wrong. Very wrong. A whisper of tension rippled through the gathered crowd as dozens of figures in deep ceremonial robes formed a perfect circle around the ancient stone platform at the center of the clearing. Torches burned along the edges of the forest, their flames dancing in the wind as if even the fire sensed the gravity of this night. Tonight was supposed to be history. Tonight was supposed to be her triumph. She stepped forward from the shadows, the soft fabric of her white ceremonial gown brushing against the moss-covered ground. Every pair of eyes followed her. Some filled with admiration. Some with curiosity. And a few, sharp and watchful, hid something far darker. Above them, the full moon hung like a silent witness. The High Elder raised his staff, the sound of the carved wood striking the stone platform echoing through the clearing. Let the coronation of the Luna begin. The murmurs died instantly. The young woman climbed the ancient steps slowly, her heart pounding so loudly she wondered if the entire pack could hear it. This was the moment she had prepared for since childhood. The moment she would stand beside the Alpha King and become the Luna of the entire kingdom. Protector. Queen. Mate. The pack watched in reverent silence as she reached the top of the platform. Then the narrator's voice cut through the stillness like a blade. Tonight, she would become Luna. A pause. The entire pack watched, unaware of the fate awaiting her. The wind suddenly swept through the clearing, rustling robes and extinguishing one of the torches near the forest edge. For a brief moment, the young woman looked toward the Alpha King standing beside the throne. His face was unreadable. And somewhere deep in the shadows of the trees, someone smiled. Chapter 2, Standing Beside the Alpha. From the shadows of the trees, someone smiled. The wind settled again, but the strange unease lingered in the clearing like a quiet warning no one could quite name. On the stone platform, the young Luna candidate took her place beside the Alpha King. The camera draws closer, robes of deep black and silver draped over his tall frame, a crown of carved moonstone resting on his dark hair. His presence alone commanded silence. Power radiated from him like the cold light of the moon above. Beside him stood the woman meant to rule at his side. Her fingers trembled slightly as she clasped them together in front of her gown, though she quickly forced them still. The pack below watched with shining eyes, proud and expectant. This was the moment every young woman in the kingdom dreamed about. Standing beside the Alpha. Chosen by fate. Chosen by the moon goddess. She glanced up at him, her lips curling into a soft, hopeful smile. The years of waiting, the endless training, the whispered promises between them, all of it had led to this night. Leaning slightly closer so only he could hear her, she whispered, her voice barely louder than the rustling leaves. Finally, our destiny begins. For a heartbeat, the Alpha said nothing. The torches flickered again, casting shifting shadows across his face. Then the camera tightens further. His jaw hardened. His eyes, once warm when they looked at her, held something colder now. Something distant. something the watching pack could not yet see. Below the platform, murmurs of excitement spread through the crowd as the High Elder raised the ceremonial crown of the Luna. The coronation was seconds away. But the Alpha King's silence stretched longer than it should have. And slowly, the hopeful smile on her face began to fade. Chapter 3: The Rejection. And slowly, the hopeful smile on her face began to fade. The silence beside her had grown heavy, too heavy for a moment that was meant to be joyful. The young Luna candidate searched the Alpha King's face, confusion flickering in her eyes. Then he moved. One slow step back. The movement was small, but in the sacred space of the coronation platform, it sounded as loud as thunder. The camera drops low from her perspective as the distance between them suddenly widens. A ripple of confusion spreads through the crowd below. The High Elder pauses mid-ceremony, the moonlit crown hovering inches above the velvet cushion in his hands. Alpha, the Luna candidate whispered, her voice trembling now. But the Alpha King's expression had turned to stone. The wind rushed through the clearing again, stirring robes and torch flames as he lifted his chin, his voice cutting through the night like a blade. "I reject you." The words echoed across the forest clearing. For a moment, the world seemed to freeze. Then the crowd erupted. "What?" Gasps burst from every direction. Robed figures leaned toward one another in disbelief, shocked whispers spreading like wildfire through the circle. "That's impossible. During the coronation? He can't reject her now." On the platform, the young woman stood completely still, as if the ground beneath her had vanished. Her breath caught in her throat, eyes wide with disbelief as the weight of his words crashed over her. Rejection. Not in private. Not quietly. But here, before the entire pack. Before the moon. Before the crown meant for her head. The Alpha King didn't look at her again. Instead, he turned slightly toward the High Elder. "Stop the ceremony." The crown trembled in the Elder's hands. And somewhere high above them, the full moon burned brighter. Chapter 4: Humiliation. And somewhere high above them, the full moon burned brighter. The High Elder's hands trembled as he slowly lowered the Luna's crown back onto the velvet cushion. The sacred ceremony, one that had been prepared for months, hung shattered in the cold night air. On the platform, the young woman stood frozen. The camera pulls back into a wide shot. Below her, the circle of robed pack members had dissolved into restless movement. Heads leaned together. Fingers pointed. Shocked whispers rolled through the clearing like waves breaking against stone. She was rejected. During the coronation. In front of the entire pack. Some stared with pity. Others with curiosity. A few with quiet satisfaction. The young woman's gaze slowly dropped to the stone beneath her feet. The ancient platform that was meant to crown her now felt like a stage built only for her disgrace. Her fingers tightened against the folds of her gown. A sharp breath trembled in her chest as the first tears gathered in her eyes, blurring the torchlight around her into flickering streaks of gold. The narrator's voice cut softly through the chaos. Humiliation burned through her chest. The murmuring crowd only grew louder. She had trained her whole life for this moment. Images flashed through her mind: years of training, endless ceremonies, lessons on leadership, the promises whispered to her beneath moonlit nights. All of it had led here. And he denied her. On the platform, the Alpha King stood tall and unmoved, his gaze fixed forward as if the woman beside him had already become invisible. The whispers sharpened. Perhaps she wasn't worthy. Maybe the moon goddess never chose her. Her tears finally slipped free. But just as the first drop touched the stone floor, a strange wind stirred the clearing. And the moonlight above suddenly began to glow. Chapter 5: Luna walks away. And the moonlight above suddenly began to glow. For a brief moment, the strange light washed over the clearing like silver fire, silencing some of the whispers below. But the young woman on the platform did not look up. Her tears had already fallen. Slowly, she inhaled, forcing the trembling in her chest to steady. The weight of hundreds of eyes pressed against her back, but something inside her, something quiet and stubborn, refused to break. Without another word, she turned away from the Alpha King. Gasps rippled again through the crowd. The camera shifts behind her as she steps down from the ancient stone platform. Each step echoes softly against the night air, the sound carrying farther than it should have in the stunned silence. No one tries to stop her. Her white ceremonial cape flows behind her, catching the moonlight as she walks through the parted circle of robed figures. Some step aside quickly. Others stare as if they are witnessing something forbidden. The torches flicker as she passes. Ahead, the forest waits dark, quiet, wrapped in a rising veil of silver mist. She keeps walking. Away from the platform. Away from the broken ceremony. Away from the Alpha who refused her. The tracking shot follows her deeper into the trees, the voices of the crowd fading behind her until only the whisper of wind and rustling leaves remain. Finally, she slows. The moonlight filters through the branches above, illuminating her tear-streaked face. She lifts her eyes toward the glowing moon. Her voice is barely a whisper, meant only for the night sky. If he won't see me. A small pause. The moon goddess will. And somewhere in the forest ahead, the mist begins to move. Chapter 6, Moon Goddess appears. And somewhere in the forest ahead, the mist begins to move. She stops mid-step, the cold, damp earth beneath her feet muffled by the rising fog. The moon above seems to pulse, its silver light intensifying until the forest glows as if it were made of liquid moonlight. A soft whisper threads through the trees, a voice not of any human she has ever known, yet somehow familiar, warm, powerful, commanding. The wind shifts, carrying the sound to her ears, making the hairs on her arms stand on end. Then the light bends. From the swirling mist, a figure begins to take shape, a woman, tall and ethereal, robes flowing as though painted from the moon itself. Her eyes shine with the brilliance of countless stars, her hair cascading like silver rivers. Every movement is graceful, impossible, yet undeniably real. The young Luna instinctively falls to her knees, rooting her in place, tears still glistening on her cheeks. The moonlight bends around the goddess, casting shadows and highlights that make the clearing seem sacred, untouched, and infinite. The voice echoes again, soft yet powerful, filling the misty air with certainty. Rise, my chosen. Your destiny is far greater than one Alpha. Her heart skips. She swallows hard, a rush of hope and fear battling inside her. This is no ordinary night. This is no ordinary destiny. She lifts her trembling hands toward the glowing figure. I don't understand, she whispers, her voice breaking. The goddess tilts her head, a smile forming that feels like both comfort and challenge. Understand this, the moon goddess continues, her voice rolling like distant thunder softened by light. Your path was never meant to be limited by crowns, by packs, or by the hesitation of men. You will rise, and the world will remember your name. The mist swirls faster, wrapping around the young Luna, as if drawing her into a new reality, a reality beyond rejection, beyond pain, beyond fear. Chapter 7, Power Awakens. Her journey is only beginning. The mist thickened around her, curling like living smoke, yet instead of suffocating, it seemed to pulse with anticipation. She could feel it, the whisper of something ancient, something far older than any Alpha or Council, brushing against the edges of her consciousness. Her hands, still trembling moments ago, lifted almost on their own. A faint silver light shimmered at her fingertips, soft at first, like moonlight kissing water. Then it flared, spilling over her arms, coiling around her like silver fire. Leaves from the forest floor lifted into the air, suspended as if gravity had forgotten them. Tiny motes of light sparkled in the mist, circling her like stars drawn into orbit. The camera pulls to a medium shot, framing her as the forest itself seems to bend around her, reverent and alive. Her heart pounds in sync with the rhythm of this new energy coursing through her veins. She feels it rise. Hot, fierce, unstoppable. It is a power older than the packs, older than the kings who rule them, older than the forest itself. Her eyes flicker, then ignite. Silver fire burns in her irises, illuminating her face with an unearthly glow. The shadows of the misty forest bend toward her, drawn by the undeniable presence of something far beyond mortal. The narrator's voice cuts softly, reverent, almost trembling with awe. A power older than the packs surged through her. She was no longer just Luna, she was a queen. A gust of wind sweeps the clearing, rustling leaves, torch flames, and the edges of her flowing cape. Every step she takes now feels heavier with purpose, yet lighter with freedom. She is no longer the girl rejected on the Coronation platform. She is something the world has never seen. The moon goddess's figure shimmers in the background, nodding slowly, approvingly. The young Luna inhales deeply, letting the silver energy pulse through her chest, her arms, her mind. The forest itself seems to bow to her, acknowledging the birth of a power that will change everything. And with one final glance at the clearing she left behind, she whispers to herself, voice steady, unbroken. This is only the beginning. Scene 8, Return to Pack. This is only the beginning. The forest fell silent around her, the whispers of leaves and the faint rustle of mist fading into reverent stillness. Her silver eyes burned with newfound power, and the air around her shimmered with energy so potent it made the hairs on her arms rise. She walked forward, each step purposeful, her cape flowing behind her like liquid moonlight. The trees seemed to part, creating a path as if the forest itself recognized her authority. The wind carried a hum, soft at first, then rising, a sound of anticipation and awe that echoed through the clearing. The camera pulls back into a wide shot as she emerges onto a hill overlooking the pack below. The crowd, once expectant, now appears small, clustered, and uncertain beneath her. Torches flicker in the night air, but their light is no match for the silver aura radiating from her. Every eye turns upward, drawn to her like moths to the brightest flame. She raises her chin, letting the glow around her pulse outward, illuminating the faces of those who doubted her, those who whispered, those who turned away in shame. Her heart beats with a rhythm older than fear, older than tradition, older than the Alpha's crown. The narrator's voice resonates through the scene, steady and triumphant. And when she returned, the Alpha would kneel before her throne. The camera sweeps over the frozen pack, capturing the disbelief, the awe, and the dawning realization that everything has changed. The torches flicker again, shadows stretching long, but none dare move. The hill beneath her feels like a throne made of moonlight, an altar of destiny. The mist curls around her boots. Leaves float in the air. The silver light dances across her face. She inhales, letting the energy of the moon goddess, of the forest, and of her own awakening surge through her. And at that moment, the night itself seems to bow in recognition. The Queen has returned. Chapter 9, Alpha's Realization. Below the hill, the pack remained frozen, their murmurs stilled by the silver aura radiating from her. Torches flickered in awe and fear, but none could dim the light of what she had become. And then his eyes found hers. The Alpha King, tall, proud, once untouchable, stood at the center of the gathering, his robes heavy, his crown still glinting under the moonlight. But tonight, the crown seemed small, insignificant against the force of her presence. The camera tightens into a close-up of his face, capturing every fraction of shock as it spreads across him like wildfire. His eyes widen, disbelief carving deep lines across his face. The breath he thought he had control over catches, then falters. His lips part, and for the first time in the history of their pack, he seems powerless. I rejected the Queen of Wolves? His voice is barely a whisper, trembling with the weight of realization. He steps back, the ground beneath him suddenly heavier, his pride crumbling under the truth of what he had done. Around him, murmurs ripple through the pack like an earthquake, confusion, fear, awe, but all eyes are still drawn to her, the silver glow marking her as untouchable. He had thought he held the power. He had been wrong. The camera captures his trembling hands, clenched at his sides, the crown on his head suddenly feeling like a shackle rather than a symbol of authority. The young Luna's eyes sweep over him, unyielding, filled with the fire of someone who had risen above betrayal, humiliation, and doubt. The mist swirls around her, energy humming through the night. Leaves drift upward as if pulled by her command. She is no longer a candidate. She is no longer waiting. She is the queen. And he, the alpha who had once rejected her, is seeing his entire world shift, realizing that the throne he coveted could never have held her spirit. For the first time, he understands, he had not just rejected Aluna, he had rejected destiny itself. Chapter 10, Final Throne. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Every torch flicker, every rustle of leaves, every whisper of mist hung frozen in anticipation. The camera dropped slow, capturing the hill beneath her as if the earth itself had made way for her arrival. And there she was, her throne. Carved from ancient stone, etched with glowing moon sigils, and bathed in silver light, it seemed as though the moon itself had descended to crown her. She sat with perfect poise, her cape flowing like liquid starlight around her, her silver eyes gleaming with power that no crown or pack could contain. The crown on her head pulsed faintly, alive, a symbol of authority no human could challenge. The Alpha King stumbled forward, the reality of his mistake pressing him to his knees. His voice caught in his throat, his hands gripping the earth as if to anchor himself to a world that no longer obeyed him. She tilted her head, calm, unshakable, a commanding presence that made the moonlight dance across the clearing like a living entity. Every leaf in the forest seemed to respond to her will. Every whisper of wind carried reverence. "Now, tell me again why you thought I was unworthy," she said, her voice low, steady, and unstoppable. The pack below shivered. Murmurs of shock and awe rippled through them. Some had doubted her. Some had scorned her. Now, all eyes recognized the truth. The Alpha swallowed hard, unable to meet her gaze, the weight of his rejection pressing down with crushing clarity. The realization was absolute, she was beyond him. Beyond the pack. Beyond anything he had ever imagined. The moon goddess's light still shimmered around her, but the power in the queen's own aura now surpassed even the divine. The mist swirled around her throne, leaves levitated as if gravity bent to her command, and the very air seemed alive with her energy. The camera lingers in a low-angle hero shot, emphasizing her dominance, her grace, her unstoppable rise. She was no longer a rejected candidate. She was a ruler. She was a force. And beneath the moonlit glow, the Alpha, once the pack's unchallenged king, knelt before her, witnessing the rise of a Luna who would be remembered for eternity.